I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to tonight's evening update for home services regarding the coronavirus. Every day, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, we're in San Diego. We're coming at you live to talk about what's happened in the world since we last met yesterday. That State of the World is brought to you by Mel. Next, we have one big topic that we go through, whether this is new business or marketing strategies, or just how to understand the resources that are being provided for you. That's what we like to spend the bulk of our time on. And today, as you can tell from the very catchy title, if I do say so myself, 2 trillion, 3 months to breathe. So obviously we are talking about the bills and acts that are being talked about right now in Congress. Some have passed, some have yet to pass. And so we're here to bring you the update on all of those. As always, please feel free to share this group with anyone who's in the home service industry. Post them in other Facebook groups that you're in, any other communities that you're in. The more people we can get in here, the better off we're going to be as an industry all together in the trades. So after this, any of the resources that we're talking about will be posted in the Facebook group. It will be posted on housecallpro.com/coronavirus. You'll be able to go into the resources section from there. And yeah, of course, just keep asking questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can at the end. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Mel, who's going to do a quick intro and give you your state of the world since it's changed since this time yesterday.
Great, thanks. Good evening, everyone who's joining us. I'm Melina Fairleigh, Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. Feel free to call me Mel. So as I heard, lots of you are new tonight, so I'll go through a little more of an introduction. I'm not a journalist or an infectious disease expert. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a homeowner. I'm a mom of 4 growing and hungry kids who are all underfoot somewhere, and I have more than 20 years of human resources experience in the private sector. So I've spent the majority of my career in the retail grocery space at the food and beverage favorite Trader Joe's. So I have a great amount of empathy and understanding for those of you in frontline customer service facing positions during this uncertain time. So before we get started, I do want to take a minute to thank all of our essential service providers in America tonight. So you've been showing up day after day, trying your best to make sure that America keeps running. So thank you to the plumbers and the electricians and the maintenance and repair teams and the nurses and doctors and home health care providers. And of course, I know that all of our hearts go out to all the families who have been impacted personally by coronavirus.
So obviously, this is our way of giving back to you guys, all of our pros, all of you guys that are watching. We spent a lot of time preparing for these shows, doing the research. Just because you see 4 of our faces today doesn't mean there's a whole team behind us. So we actually have researchers, content writers, people that are saving the video, splicing it, re-uploading it, cutting it. So we're definitely investing in you guys. Obviously, we're gonna be sharing you guys with a bunch of facts. The facts that we get all have sources. So when you download everything, you can see exactly where we're getting it from. I want to make sure all of you guys are aware. There's probably a lot of copy and pasting going on elsewhere across the internet, lots of memes, lots of hoaxes. I saw one recently with like tanks rolling down the streets of San Diego. That was like a hoax. So just make sure you guys verify your sources, where things are coming from. We do our best to include all the sources. We spend a lot of time doing the research here, so we'll give you all the documents and things that we're looking at to come up with the things we're sharing with you today.
Great, yeah, exactly, because we know that you as business owners and as leaders are trusted resources in your communities, so we want you to have valuable information that you can trust. So your employees are asking you questions and they're looking to you for answers. So we're going to do our best to keep you informed in these fast-moving times. So we start with a daily update, the numbers of the coronavirus and where we are as a planet and where we are here in the US, where the 4 of us are based. So the World Health Organization reported over 414 confirmed cases and over 18,000 deaths globally. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention yesterday reported over 54,000 total confirmed and presumptive cases in the US and 737 deaths. But as things are moving so quickly, right before I hopped on tonight, I looked up the Johns Hopkins dashboard just a few minutes ago, and they're now reporting over 83,000 US cases and just over 1,200 deaths as of about 4:30 Pacific time today. So with that number, the US now has more confirmed cases than any other country, more cases than China and more cases than Italy.
Yeah, so things are moving fast here. And so you can see right here, the US just surpassed China here in terms of confirmed cases. So this is the most up-to-date way to see what these are in actually a really cool kind of visual view. So we'll post a link to this for you guys if you want to keep track. Obviously, you can see New York has been the hardest hit, followed closely by kind of like Washington and then New Jersey. But from a case perspective, there's a lot coming in California now as well. So go ahead and use this if you want to get real-time updates. I'll get off the share here as we can continue here.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is that part of these increases in cases in the US is an increase in testing, right? So we've heard a lot about trying to get more tests out there. So New York City, as one of the most effective epicenters, has reported over 20,000 cases and 280 deaths. So the cases in New York are expected to continue to increase, especially as the state has ramped up testing, which is going to make those numbers climb more rapidly. The more people that are tested, even people who have been exposed but don't have symptoms might not have otherwise, come in for a test, but because they're tracing back to where exposed people have been and traveled and who they've seen. So we're going to see those numbers continue to climb. And we're hearing that the city of New York is still in need of tens of thousands of respirators. Today we heard that at least one new 1,000-bed facility is being, stood up in each of New York City's 5 boroughs to absorb the overflow from hospitals. So our existing hospitals are not enough in that area to handle what they're expecting in the coming days. So my heart goes out to New York City residents tonight for sure.
They're already, I think I saw earlier today, they're already starting to make hard choices on, like incredibly hard choices on who they can care for and who they can't. I mean, the same kind of behaviors we saw in Italy and elsewhere, where doctors say, I have to choose between a person of this age or a person of that age because they're just overwhelmed. And it was hard to imagine that would be in America, but sure enough, that's the case. Here we are.
And we also heard from President Trump that the White House is going to release some new guidelines to help states make decisions. So as we know, a lot of these decisions for whether or not you're under lockdown or essential services only orders, those are made at local level. So often at the state and sometimes even county and sometimes city level. So President Trump said that the White House will release new guidelines to help states make decisions about maintaining, increasing, or relaxing social distancing and other measures. So they're gathering data and we're expecting to get some direction as far as how to categorize counties and areas as high, medium, or low risk for the virus, which then could impact what sorts of measures are put in place in different municipalities, different cities and counties and states. So looking—
Yeah, and you'll also see things as well as, people that are in highly impacted areas. What's difficult is a lot of people are leaving them because they're seeing it's highly impacted, but that causes it to spread even more. So we'll probably see some tightening even around restrictions on state borders and things like that we haven't typically ever seen.
Yeah, last night—
coming out of New York, right? New York people going to the 6th borough, which is Florida, and they're traveling into the state and bringing with it to one of the oldest populations we have in this country, and yet they're bringing this virus with them, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, yesterday we heard a call for anyone that has left New York City to voluntarily quarantine themselves in wherever they are for 14 days to be safe. So. And turning to the more global picture, we continue to hear that healthcare systems are struggling to keep up with the number of patients. There's a shortage of supplies. So as Brooks was mentioning, it's not just here. We now have the most number of confirmed cases in the world, but several other countries have enlisted the military, their police, to help with enforcement of social distancing. So some countries like India, which we talked about, 1 or 2 nights ago, have had trouble enforcing measures. And because the announcements are coming up so fast, there's confusion often when these announcements come out as to what you're allowed to go out for, what's an essential business. So we're just seeing that there's a continuing trend for additional lockdown. And then there's also a trend of enforcement challenges.
Yeah, even here in San Diego, we've, I feel like this past weekend, everybody was still out at the beaches and There's a couple hiking trails here called like Three Sisters and et cetera. And there are more people there than ever before. And so this week now, literally there's cops going up and down the boardwalk, kicking people off the beach. Everything's closed, parking lots are closed. So there's definitely more enforcement happening. And we know it's going to take a huge toll on the local economies.
Yeah, so really the U.S. attention has turned to the economy in recent days, and that's largely what we're going to be talking about tonight. A record almost 3.3 million workers in the U.S. have filed for unemployment benefits. So states with the largest increases, my home state of Pennsylvania, my current state of California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Ohio, and as you can expect, the industries like hotels and restaurants and airlines and automakers have been most impacted. So what we're going to talk about today, we all woke up to the news that the Senate unanimously approved a $2 trillion relief package. While it still needs to go through the House, if approved, this package would become the largest federal stimulus package in history. So we're going to learn a lot about it tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be what we're going to be talking about. Brooks has done a ton of studying on this, literally spending all day reading up, talking to different people across all the different groups he's also a part of. So that's what we're going to be covering today and unpacking the things that are most important for you guys. I posted the full 880-page stimulus bill in the Corona group and said if any of you guys wanted to read it, you could. But obviously, time is of the essence, so we're gonna unpack it for you guys here.
Mm-hmm. And so before we get into this, Mel, we've had a lot of questions about the Families First Act over the last week in the Facebook group. And I know that you suggested we talk about this earlier in the week, and it's something I keep seeing popping up through the Facebook group. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that today. And this is about sick leave and family leave, right? This isn't a part of the business loans?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So I believe we actually have a one-pager that people can download that covers all the details, correct?
Yeah, we've put together a nice guide for you to talk about the Families First Act. So I'll go through those details, but you're going to have a nice takeaway that's available on our website and for all of you that are tuning in tonight. So the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which lots of people are just calling the Families First Act, it requires businesses under 500 employees. So that's my business. That's, I think, most of your businesses. It requires those of us with fewer than 500 employees to offer up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave and an additional 10 weeks of expanded family leave. So I'll break that down just a little bit more. Why this is important to you today is because it goes into effect next week. So this goes into effect on Wednesday, April 1st. And will last through the end of the calendar year, so through December 31st. So looking at these two components, the first is paid sick leave. So per the law, 2 weeks, so up to 80 hours of paid sick leave with full pay if an employee is unable to work due to quarantine, illness, or school closures related to coronavirus. So even if they're feeling great, but they need to be at home because there's no childcare and school is closed, that would count as sick leave. So up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave with full pay. And if you have—
And this is capped at $5,000, right?
It's $511 per day is the cap. So yeah, times, what is that? Times 10 days. So just over 5,000. Yeah. And part-time employees can receive a portion based on their normal hours. So if you have a 20-hour-a-week employee, then they'd be eligible for 2 20-hour weeks of this full paid sick leave. And then the second part—
top of that,
go ahead.
No, so on top of that, there's the 10-week part too. That's
right. Right. So on top of that is 10 weeks of additional family leave. So this is a completely new provision. So businesses are responsible to pay 2/3 of an employee's pay for up to 10 weeks of extended family leave if your employee is unable to work due to a need to care for a child. So if the school is closed, if the daycare is closed, so 2/3 pay for up to 10 weeks of extended family leave. So someone could have an initial 2 weeks, which is called sick leave. And then on top of that, if it's to care for a child, an additional 10 weeks of family leave with 2/3 pay capped at $200 per day. So it's pretty supportive provision for employees, and obviously can be one that businesses can find challenging. So I'll talk a little bit about how the government's intending to pay for it. So the government's intention is tax credits. So employers will receive 100% of the wages that they paid in sick leave back as a tax credit. So obviously that tax credit isn't in your pocket today. So what the direction has been from the US Treasury and the IRS is that what employers should do is take advantage of the paid leave credits. They can retain any funds they would be paying in taxes right now, in payroll taxes. They can retain those funds and use that to pay for leave.
And Mel, I think one of the questions here is that I've seen now pop up 4 times is, so does family leave doesn't apply for businesses under 10?
It's under,
do you know if that's true or false?
Any company under 500 people it applies to. So that brings up the sort of final piece of this act is the exemptions. So businesses with under 50 employees, so that's not my business, but it's lots of the businesses that we've got watching right now. So businesses with under 50 employees can file for an exemption. And you can file for an exemption if it would provide a hardship for your business to, put out these sick leave and family leave funds. So unfortunately, the Department of Labor is still working on the eligibility requirements for the exemption, and they're still working on how you file for the exemption. So if your business would be in hardship in compliance, you can apply for an exemption, but we do not yet have direction from the Department of Labor as to how you can apply. So if you tune in here every night, we will absolutely update you the moment that happens, that you can see how to file for that exemption. So there's nothing about companies of 10 or fewer, Roland, to the specific question, but this applies to companies of 500 or fewer, but companies with 50 or fewer can apply for an exemption.
All right, so if you're between 50 and 500, then you're not gonna have that exemption.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. So this brings us to the next point. Now we're going to get into the federal stimulus, because obviously that tax exemption is covered within that federal stimulus. But let's talk a little bit about what we've learned so far by going through it. Obviously, it's passed the Senate and it's on its way through the rest of our government. But likelihood that it passes. What is your view there, Brooks? What happens next?
Yeah, I mean, this thing's a lot to get through. Clearing the Senate is probably the biggest hurdle by far. It got through at 96-0 on the vote. It'll go to the House tomorrow. Unlikely to see many amendments to it, and it should pass quickly and then go into effect. And this is by far, in my opinion, again, I'm not an analyst, I'm not a lawyer, I can't give you specific advice, but I can tell you as someone who's observed history and then also the politics of this country, it is an extraordinary law that we're putting into effect here so that we can get money immediately into the hands of the people in our country like you, particularly for small businesses, right? So the entire philosophy here is that the government knows that the economy has a risk of just seizing up, like your engine that runs out of oil, right? That's the last thing that you want to see. So instead, they want to keep that machine ticking over. And it needs lubricant in there, it needs oil in the machine to make that happen. Okay, great. So what can the government do to keep that oil in the machine? And that's money. The single greatest lubricant this government has is putting money into the system. And so that if I give Roland $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, he'll use that money to pay his rent. He'll use that money to pay for gas. He'll use that money to pay his bills. He'll also pay his employees. And that means employees have money to go spend on other things again, like food and shelter and so on. So it's absolutely critical that the government quickly inject money into the system and start to see it multiply its way through. So it's kind of like the $5 tip that just keeps going around and around and around. Well, that's the government's idea. The problem with the government is that they're not very good at getting money into your hands. They're a little bit slow. So what they're trying to do with this approach is get money into the hands of banks who can then loan money to you as a small business. They can do things like sending you a check that you'll get hopefully within a month or so of time. And you'll have direct payment in your account as well. So they're just trying to get money into play so that you will keep your employees, so that one, you'll keep yourself, in business and moving forward. We talked about this the other night, right? A lot of the country has invested in panic and fear. That's an emotion. Instead, what we want you to do is start to solve problems. Take one step forward towards the fight of this thing in this war. So if you can be in motion, point yourself at the right problems, do the right things. This is an opportunity to help you, one, stabilize your business very quickly, stabilize your employees, and keep this going forward for the next 3 months until they figure out the next thing to do if we need to go that much longer. So this is an unbelievable effort of $2 trillion with both parties coming together to do the right thing for our economy. And I promise you it will have, I think, the most profound effect that any government act has in your lifetime. It is that extraordinary. We'll break down the numbers for you here in a second, but those are the big ideas of what's in play here. Government stepping up, writing a big check, and quickly trying to get that money in your hands so you can put it to work to stabilize your business and keep your employees employed. Is that helpful, Roland? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one thing just to kind of keep in the back of your minds, and obviously there's no guarantees with everything, but 2 trillion represents about 10% of total GDP. So what that means from like a month perspective is that this might not even be the last injection of stimulus that the government could pass. This is the beginning, and this is a show of good faith in terms of like the speed and the government getting everything into action, getting pushed through quickly to get money back into your hands. But as we think about what the potential length of what's going on can be, if it ends up being longer than the months that we need, obviously there's going to be more that will come into play based upon what GDP has historically been.
That's right. So the government program, the hardest thing to do is to get the commitment and stand it up. But once it's in place, it's easy to keep it going forward if needed. It's like a wartime measure, right? Once it's in place and the machine is ticking over, we're all good. They can wind it back down when they need to. We saw some of that in 2008. The government stepped in, intervened, and then eventually wound it back. Same thing here. This is putting a mechanism that really helps us carry the next 3 months in this country, which we think will be the most difficult time as the virus starts to ravage its way through the country. Great. Then how do we keep the economy going? And how do we get it to start winding its way back up again somewhere here, hopefully in June, July? Okay, so those are the observations here. Why don't we kind of break down some of the key factors that are inherent in this government effort? That'd be helpful?
Yes. Yeah, so do you want to start talking about the entrepreneurial assistance, or do you want to talk through some of the things and start with kind of what is the direct pay to some of the individuals that will be watching today?
Yeah, so let's just there's kind of 3 key prongs in a list that's probably 15 specific initiatives deep. But I think there are 3 or so that are going to matter a lot to you as small business owners, right? As the backbone of our economy, keeping you guys in business and moving forward. Okay, first one is let's get some money directly to each of the people in our country. So if it's a direct payment approach that will happen somewhere in the next 3 to 6 weeks, I think is about the time frame. I would count on a little bit longer than faster, but each American will receive $1,200. If you're a married couple, you're going to earn $2,400 from the government for this first round of checks. And if you're a parent, you have a child under the age of 17, you'll get an extra $500 for them as well. So we're going to get money going into your hands. Now, you start to cap out at some point. If you have a lot of income in your household, which I think is about $200,000, you're not going to get paid. But for most of our pros and most of our customers, and for most of us, that's the right number. At least gets money directly in your hands within just a few weeks' time. And I don't believe it's taxable income either. Is that correct?
Not taxable, and where it starts to cap out is adjusted gross income of $75,000 per individual. So as a couple, 150,000 AGI, and then beyond that, you wouldn't qualify for this.
Got it. Okay, so that's a good start. So we're going to get checks out there, get you through your first month of rent and so on. Now, the big one is this one, to keep your business going. And again, so that 1, you don't seize up, and then 2, you don't start laying a bunch of people off. Instead, they want you to keep your employees employed to the best of your ability. I'm going to give you what is essentially, and this is astounding, free money for 2+ months of your operation. If you think about what you did in January and February, how many people did I employ? What was my payroll? What was my rent? What was some of my equipment operating costs and subscriptions and so on? They're going to go look at that record when you apply for an SBA loan, and they're going to say, what did you spend in that month? Okay, we're going to give you 2.5 times that number, I believe is the multiple they're using. And then you're going to get that money, and it's going to be guaranteed by the government. This is the big part of it. You're not going to pay this money back, assuming you pay it out the way you're supposed to. They'll give you this 2.5 month multiplier, or 2.5 times multiplier on, I think it's your January, February period. And you're going to have that money in your account. And as long as you put it towards your rent, you put it towards your gas bill, you put it towards your employees' compensation and benefits and so on, you will not have to pay it back to the government. The government is backstopping this deal. It's a free money loan, and they're going to be the one who's paying the bill on this deal. And the whole point is get from them to the bank. The bank will give you the SBA, the small business loan, and then the government's guaranteeing it. And as long as you can show the records of how you disperse that money between now and I think the end of June, then you're going to be in really good standing with the government, and you don't have to pay it back. So it's free money up to $10 million for your business, which is absolutely extraordinary.
Yep, and they're going to be looking at the people and what your income was before February 15th as kind of a barometer of, are you keeping the business in a steady state level for this? And then it'll cap it up to $10 million for small businesses. So there is definitely a cap there, but for most of the people that are watching today, this is going to be a substantial amount that will cover you. And then better yet, you don't have to pay it back.
Right.
And
but you have to put it to work. You can't salt it away like, squirrels in the wintertime. The idea is you get this money free as long as you put it to work in your business. Keep your people employed, keep your business running. Even if you don't have revenue coming in, you're going to have money to pay all those bills. It'll keep you in a position where anything above that is just blue sky. It's just opportunity, manna from heaven, okay? So it's an SBA loan. The government backs it up. Very low qualifications. Like if you have bad credit, that's not going to be an issue for them. What they want to see is your company's history from one of the trailing 2 months, January, February, and they're going to take that number, they're going to give you a multiplier of that number, and that's the money you're going to have in your account. And again, as long as they can go back and check that you spent it in the appropriate places, the right places, then no strings attached. Does that make sense to you all? Look, the words you want to remember on this is the Paycheck Protection Program, and it's the 7A Small Business Act, right? It's the 7A provision. So your the small business lenders will be the ones distributing this 7A provision for you, all right?
Yep, and just so you guys know here, wow, man, what was I going to say? I'm spacing on this. Sorry.
Right.
I had it.
It's okay. I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Sorry. This is it.
Right.
If you guys happen to have already reacted kind of on the fear-based approach and laid people off, you can actually go back and rehire them, and it will count towards those expenses. So if you guys feel like last week or even 2 weeks ago that you made a decision to just let people go, you now know that the government will come back, backstop all of that. You can bring them back and then use the loan to pay them. So if there's anyone that's still within reach and hasn't gone and done something else, now is the time to bring them back into the company. And that was one of the big reasons why they let this happen.
Yeah, because look, a lot of you already took actions this week or even last week to lay people off, to reduce hours. What the government wants you to do and is trying to inspire you to do with this part of this provision is to hire people back, even if they're working part-time, but just keep their pay going to them. And even if they're sitting idle relative to where you want them to be this time of year, at least the money is flowing from you to them, keeping them employed and a roof over their head. You're keeping them in food. They're able to take care of their families. And this will be your legacy. Your legacy, the government helped all of us, and we were able to then provide for our people, right? And that's the critical part of this deal. So, look, this is a statement about our country, about doing the right thing. There is another option. We'll talk about unemployment benefits here in a minute. But the primary motivation of this $2 trillion effort for small businesses is to get you to have your people back working with you, to give you free money to manage that part of your costs on labor, plus your other operating expenses, and to keep you guys up and going for the next 3 months during this the most difficult time of this war on the virus. Okay. So we'll have a lot more detail for you in the follow-up. We want to give you the big headline notes here on that one. So going to get money into your pocket directly with checks for the individual, for the couples, or with kids that are under 17. Great. The second one is the Paycheck Protection Program we just talked about, where you can go and get a small business loan from a small business qualified lender. It'll be the 7A provision, and it'll be free money based on either January or February numbers and a multiplier that gets you through the next 3 months. And look, again, if things stay tough in this country, pretty good chance they'll probably keep it going, but I wouldn't bet on it. Just assume 30, 60, 90 days, let's solve that need, okay? And it's about $350 billion the government has put to work on that front. And again, up to $10 million that you can apply for and have in your business if you're under 500 people. You have to be under 500 employees to qualify for this particular lending facility. Okay.
Mhm.
Third thing, let's talk about the unemployment benefits. Roland, do you want to talk about those? Or you want me to go into them?
If you want to go into it.
Okay. So here's the other option. If you don't bring your employees back, they can at least be backstopped by the government at the state level and now the federal level. The federal level has intervened to say that if someone is unemployed, they'll supplement up to $600 a week on top of your state benefits for the next 4 months. Alternatively, if they're partially employed, they'll backstop there. I think that's true. Mel, maybe Mel's already signed off. I think it's also for partial employment or underemployment. So they'll also intervene and say, we'll give some additional money there. The risk in that deal, though, is that employee no longer works for you. They are now on unemployment, and arguably they can go to work for somebody else. They can go start their own business, right? It's an option, and it's a solid option, but it isn't doing what I would, well, I can't be judgmental on this one. I think my view and my position is I want to keep our people employed, and I want to keep paying them. If the government's going to help me do that, then we all going to feel really good about where we are as a country and as a tribe, essentially now, and as we look back at this in months down the road. So first option is keep your people employed or bring them back to work, use the loan facility to keep them paid. And if you can't, then know that at least they have that backstop that will be roughly, I think, as much as almost $1,000 a week in some states between the federal level and the state level. And it's a good backstop. It just doesn't guarantee you're going to get those people back if they find a better opportunity for you, right? And so you'll make your own decisions on what works for you, but at least you have two great backstops now to keep people paid that are out there on the line, workers, and not just the small business owners. Any thoughts on that, Roland?
Remember this. Yeah, the state varies from state to state. So it can be anywhere from like 200 to I think like tops out at 500. So you're going to have to check out on the state level. And then the federal comes on top of that one as well. And that's that new piece that just got approved.
Yep.
Obviously too, the key thing that you mentioned also is it will also help on partial employed. So if you reduce their hours, they'll still be able to receive a portion of that equivalent to the amount of the hours that got reduced. So if you feel like maybe there isn't that much business to do yet, but you want to make sure that they still have their benefits and all the other things, and you want help from the government, that they can also still apply for that. And you can very easily on a week by week basis adjust it up and down as well. If you start to get busy again because demand ticks up, you can quickly reverse back to it, pull them back up to 40 hours, or put them back down. So just know there's a lot of flexibility in this option, and it's definitely something you should take a look at and consider.
We'll give you as much guidance as we can as we parse through this 800+ document, and particularly when it becomes a law on Friday. We'll give you the summaries on this and giving what your options are to do. But again, I think the more you can keep your people employed, because you can't, if you go get that Small Business Administration loan, they're not going to give you the money for free if you don't pay it out to your employees, right? So it'll just simply be a pass through from the government to you, to your employees, and you're going to feel really good about the fact that you kept your people that probably invested themselves in your success, in your vision for your company for months or years or even decades in some cases. This will give you an opportunity to keep them close to you, to honor all that hard work and investment, and to feel really good about where you are, I think, both as a business leader, as a CEO of your company, but also as a citizen of this country, which is really the big picture at hand here, right? What are we doing that's the right thing? The government's enables us all to make that right choice, arguably. And I think we should all feel really good about ourselves if we're able to keep our tribe, our people close to us, and really honor them as well. Okay, so those are the big three. What else do you have in there, Roland?
The last thing I would just add there, remember how hard it is to find good people. That is such a much higher cost than even just their monthly salaries. So if you have someone good, make sure you get them back on board and keep them moving forward, because when this is over, and it will be over, you want to make sure you can put all of that back to work as quick as possible and leapfrog any of your competitors who made some wrong decisions, right? And just let everybody go. They have to rebuild from scratch. You're already going to have a machine that's working and that you can ramp up real quick.
Yeah, so imagine you have these now 2 to 3 months of runway ahead of you that the government's paying for to run your business. No matter how much more revenue is coming in, it doesn't matter. All your costs are going to be covered by the vast majority of your costs be covered by the government in this case. It gives you time to breathe. And I think that was Alexa's headline here for this session today was $2 trillion, breathe. And what we're hoping you to do is we'll take all the emotion out of this and we start to just focus on opportunity again. I've got 2 to 3 months just to breathe and take care of my people, take care of my business, and start innovating. taking one step forward and testing new ideas like we talked about the other night. Keep pushing forward. And then as the economy starts to pick back up and all these emergency services become regular services again, you're going to be really well positioned to take full opportunity of that. And you're going to be in so much better position than someone else who hasn't done this homework, who didn't take advantage of these loans, who didn't look at what the government was offering, didn't have information like we're sharing with you, and didn't take the right steps. And you're going to be in a great competitive advantage too for yourself going forward. You can actually start to breathe and think of this time as an opportunity in an extraordinarily challenging time around the world. You can see it as an opportunity to improve your business and to be able to take even better care of your customers today and tomorrow. And again, get that economy really racing forward again as we go into the second half of the year. Hopefully that all makes sense to you all. I know it's a little bit of big picture thinking to go with a little bit of like, hey, what's in it for me and how do I get this solved? But again, the government's done the right thing here, and you all have this unbelievable gift and bounty, and they're going to make it as easy as possible through your SBA lender, which is a bank somewhere in your area, in your town. You'll find, and we'll have a list of them, you'll be able to find them. You'll be able to go to that lender, put in a simple application, show them your numbers from the last couple of months, and they're going to get you some money as quickly as they possibly can. Okay? All right, any other big call outs you want? Those are the big three I was thinking about. There's a bunch of other stuff in there, Roland. What do you think is important?
There's, just thinking about protection against foreclosures and evictions. So there's some housing things that were put into place, protections, particularly against foreclosures on mortgages, as well as evictions for renters. Obviously, this is also from like a federal level, but then there's things on a state level as well here. And if they're backed by a federally backed mortgage, so if you're thinking like Fannie Mae, those types of mortgages, there's a forbearance on them for up to 60 days, which can be extended for 4 more periods of 30 days at a time here.
Yeah, that's a big idea. They just keep the wolves at bay, right? They'll keep them off your back, whether it's your student loans or whether it's your mortgage if it's backed by one of the big agencies that the government has, right? So it's another relief mechanism to help you take a deep breath, find a little bit of just calm and start thinking clearly and moving towards the fight, right? So that's another good tool in this arsenal. So look, we'll give you all the list of the rest of the details so you can figure out what you need out of this thing. Remember, the Senate has approved this $2 trillion phase 3 investment in America, and it'll get hopefully through the House of Representatives tomorrow, and then it'll get signed by the president and it'll be off and running as a bill. That money will then work its way in the days and weeks to come through the system and start multiplying its way to keep everybody up and going. And again, these incredible times. So why don't we answer some questions, Roland? Would that be the best thing to do here?
Yeah, let's do some questions real quick.
All right.
Alexa, any big ones that have popped up that you want us to address?
So many questions. This is probably the most amount of questions we've gotten, and hopefully this blog post that we put together for you guys answers a lot of them so you can go back through and really understand it. But the one thing that kept popping up is the different situations of whether you're a sole proprietor, you employ subcontractors, 1099. So I would like to take this opportunity for you guys to go back through. Hold on, I have it pulled up here. So how does it affect the following groups? If we can go through these high level. So freelancers, 1099, subcontractors, self-employed, employers, and then employers who are sole proprietors. Those 3 or 4.
I wish I had the answer to all of that level of detail versus the big headlines. Mel, maybe you know, or Roland, you might. If not, I promise you we will publish the answers to that question by end of day tomorrow. Alexa, would that be the right promise?
Yes, we have a big team working on this. I think the one is, do they still qualify for this if they are owner operators is the biggest question.
Yeah, because look, you still have expenses like rent. You have a subscription to Housecall Pro for that matter. You have gas for your trucks. You have insurance. Those are all operating expenses that will be included in the forgiving of the loan. So as long as you can show the proof of how those monies were paid out, and it's in that qualifying group of things of first of all, foremost, labor, your people, benefits, and goes through rent, equipment, and other charges you have to operate your business for up to 2 to 3 months, you'll be able to give that back to your bank, show I paid these numbers out, and they'll say, okay, that part is forgiven, you're blessed, and you're good. Mm-hmm. Right? So it isn't just to get people working. That is by far the biggest part. It is also to make sure that you keep a roof for your business overhead and all those other small expenses covered off.
And
right?
also on the unemployment side, so typically unemployment insurance, unemployment benefits are only available to employees, but this new pandemic unemployment assistance program is going to provide benefits to those who are unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable to work because of the virus, including, and this is the first time you've seen this with unemployment, independent contractors, self-employed, and those who don't typically qualify for assistance, such as gig economy workers,
Right.
taskers and drivers and delivery folks who aren't eligible in most states. So the benefits would mirror what's available. So this is a big deal for those who, are unemployed through no fault of their own, who might be a gig worker or independent contractor or be self-employed. So unemployment benefits, you should apply. If you're not working, apply for unemployment benefits. Mm-hmm. Let them put you through the process, because you just might qualify under these new rules.
So I think we can probably organize this by, here's what an owner operator is going to do. Here's what a gig worker would do, or a contract worker. Or here's what a small business owner is going to do. We'll try to make it as clear as we can, so that's really actionable for you, which means you can get at it and get to work on this once it clears through the House of Representatives tomorrow and then the president after that. Okay. I promise you, this is complex stuff. There's a reason why these documents are 800 pages long. It would make my head hurt, and I actually like reading this stuff. I want to get it down to simple, straightforward, and actionable for you. And that's our commitment, is that we'll do our best to make that happen for you all.
Definitely. That's our promise to you. We have a huge team combing through all this stuff to get you the most relevant, true information to help you make your business decisions. So this next one is from Matt, I recognize his name. He's been with us at pretty much every single one of these webcasts. And this is the one that's been most upvoted. So how are new businesses going to get help? My business started February 1st this year, and everything I find says I need at least 2 years of history. So there are some exceptions, and I don't know how much we can speak on this topic, but if someone wants to take a stab, it was our most upvoted.
If you're a small business owner, they're not looking for, they're not trying to establish credit for you. They're not trying to figure out that you've been around a long time. What they're trying to do is say, was I in business at the beginning of this year? Did I have people employed? Did I have expenses? And they're trying to get money in your hands. They're not going to be as discerning as they might in a peacetime economy, where they look at every T and every I. They're going to be looking at your legitimate statement of expenses you had in the last couple of months before the world went to hell in a handbasket. And to say, what can I do to help you? So I can't tell you it's going to be a walk in the park. It won't be as easy as chewing gum, but it's going to be a whole lot harder than that, because the government is trying to get money in your hands, okay? I can't tell you exactly what the spec will be, but just think their job is trying to help you get money in your hands. As long as you can show you're legitimate when you start this year out, they're going to give you a multiple of those expenses and get that money to work through you all. Because they trust you to do a better job putting that money to work than they're trying to get it out there themselves, all right?
So I got a question here that wasn't in the QA that I think is pretty pertinent here, but Brandon Brown from Facebook. So this is from our Facebook Live feed. What would you recommend if we have no workload to keep 4 to 5 busy right now till over? Get a loan so to help pay other bills, or lay off and let them get unemployment till it's all over? What is your feeling here, Brooks?
Look, I'm opinionated here, right? I think that we should take care of our people, our family, our people, and our country. So what they're trying to get you to do is hire those people back. I don't care if they're painting the shed all day long. Keep them busy, because look, part of this deal is this. Humans need to have purpose. They need to wake up in the morning and say, there's a reason for me to go to work, right? All of our people that work with us at Housecall Pro are like that too. They don't want to sit idle. These guys are unbelievable high performers, right? They're smart, they're hardworking. They just want to be useful. They want to make a difference in the world. Well, I'll tell you what, your people that work with you are the exact same as that. If they're on unemployment, they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs, worrying. But if you can bring them back into your business and let that money flow through you, again, I don't care if they paint your building 5 times. Give them a purpose to get up, give them a task, have them do training all day long so they're really well conditioned and trained to go out and sell for you when the world starts to pick up again. Think about training for taking care of customers. Think about technical training. Anything you do to give them a purpose, a mission, to get out of bed every day, to put their pants on and feel proud of the work they're able to do. Mel will tell you, like, it's one of the most important things that a human needs outside of having a shelter over their head. They have to have purpose in this world.
I would say there are so many things they can help you do in the business, not just, sitting around. I mean, even your current existing customer base, have them call them, talk to them. Think about other long-term value you can start building for your brand. Hopefully many of you guys have wrapped your trucks, and just having those trucks driving around, helping, delivering things. Ira made an awesome post where 4 of her 6 trucks are now just doing delivery routes across town. Guess
That's awesome.
What people are gonna think when they're looking around and they're seeing these trucks moving around. They don't know what's going on. All they see is these trucks moving around.
Yeah, there aren't that many cars out there. So like, they're gonna be visible in neighborhoods, they're gonna be doing the right thing. So again, I'm a strong advocate for get the small business loan up to 10 million bucks from the government and hire your people back and just keep them busy in training and improving their skill set so they can be even more valuable to you in your business. If they're unemployed on unemployment, they can go work somewhere else whenever they wanted to. And you can't spend time, you can't tell them what to do. You can't ask them to train and learn. So this is an opportunity to feel really good about your investment, again, for yourself, for your family, but also for all these great people and their families too.
Yep.
That's a great question.
It looks like that's a great question. It looks like our Facebook dropped off here. I think Zoom booted our connection, unless you can see that, Alexa.
But I also just do want to remind all of you in states that have not had partial unemployment benefits that, even if you've got employees who were working 40 hours and now you've got, you're doing everything you can to keep them as busy as possible, but they're working 30 hours, they can still apply for that difference. So if anyone is sitting there in that situation today, this is the time to, go ahead and make sure that you're trying every angle available and not thinking that it's just, black or white. They're introducing a lot of gray here, a lot of ways that you can use different programs and services together. And we're still just learning how all of these things are going to interact.
Right.
People need that money flowing as fast as possible. So if you've got anyone who today is on reduced hours, make sure that they've applied for unemployment. Right.
And there'll be some nuance, like just some subtlety to this whole thing. But look, just get it in motion, get those SBA 7A loans. And if you were doing business in January, February, you can show that 2.5 multiplier times the number. So let's say it's $100,000 you had in expenses in the month of February. If you're running a good business, big business, imagine you're going to have now $250,000 in your account that as long as you pay it out by, I think, the end of June, that you're going to get that money free and clear. Imagine that. So get those people employed, pay all your bills, and start improving your business and set it up for success for today and for tomorrow. Any other big questions that you see in the thread there?
So a lot of them go with the same theme. And I think really to end this, if we can talk about what is available right now. And again, one more time, the status on all the other loan applications and when we think that those are going to be open based off what we've researched. Just ending it on that, I think, would be good.
So I'll talk about where we are on this stimulus and for the 7A loan application through Small Business Administration. So again, we still have to clear the House tomorrow. We have to get to the president who will sign this quickly, I assume tomorrow or over the weekend. But again, like the bureaucracy of our government is only so fast. I'm an optimist. I'd love to think it would be the next week. It won't be. It'll be a month. But to stand these programs up and to get the money flowing out there, that means the direct payment checks will probably be 3 to 6 weeks, I believe. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to be fast, but again, you're talking about 300 million people in this country. The second part of it is these SBA loans. You got to get the money into the hands of the SBA small business lenders. Again, probably 3 to 6 weeks, I think is probably a fair threshold. And then you also have the, what was the third bin, which was the unemployment insurance. Mel, do you think the unemployment insurance will go faster because there's already infrastructure around there, but they still have to get the federal level? That's a new idea, right?
Right. So I did read parts of the 800 pages today related to unemployment, and it definitely says that you will not necessarily get your state portion, which the states already exist. The states already know what to do. It says you won't necessarily get your state portion in this new federal portion at the same time, and it won't necessarily be in the same check. So they are going to be running separately, but they will include the time period of your eligibility. So just because they haven't gotten the mechanism up and running doesn't mean you shouldn't be applying at the state level. The federal funds will will come in as soon as they can, but it does not hold up your ability to apply right away.
You know, I was thinking about this,
some
Mel,
of these benefits.
Sorry, go ahead, Roland.
I'll just say some of these benefits also will be offered in the form of tax credits or allowing you to pay these payroll taxes over a period of years and other tax income years. So like 2021, 2022. So there's a couple different ways where it's some cash in hand, some other ones paying things and deferring things out into the future.
Yeah, but that is good. The great part is this new bill, though, that's going to get money directly into your hands. You're not getting credits on that stuff and trying to figure that stuff out. Here's a closing idea for y'all. I want you to start taking action. We all do. We want to start taking one step forward, one step forward. Well, one of the best steps you could take is start doing homework on who your SBA lender will be and figure it out and call them and say, I believe it's going to clear the government. When will we have these lending facilities in place? Start to do your homework. Like, don't wait until 3 to 4 weeks from now when that money's out there. Go do the homework and figure out who your contact is going to be. Create a relationship with that person and make sure that you are at the top of the list and you understand how to fill those forms out to get that loan submitted. And then start getting all your paperwork ready on your side so you can put it as one nice little package with a nice bow on it and say, I want my money, please, and they will get that money to you, okay? The government, God bless them, is doing the right thing for once without a bunch of politics wrapped around this thing. Let's all take advantage of this and keep these small businesses and keep America rolling. We will all be the better for it. We'll also be proud of ourselves for what we did together here and what we did for all of our people and our companies, okay? Is that a good night? Are we done?
I
feel there's like a mic we got to drop.
Yeah, Brooks, drop
like this somehow.
your mic.
So
with the American
go like
flag
this.
in the background, yeah. I'm like super motivated now.
Yeah.
So one last thing is we have a one-pager for you all on the Families First relief bill. I posted it in the chat box here, and I also posted it in the live feed on Facebook, and we will also just put it as a post all on its own. If you are not yet in the coronavirus discussion Facebook group, there's so much conversation going on, people lifting each other up and sharing ideas about how to get through this time, and lots of questions and comments on the topic that we covered today. So if you want to continue the conversation, make sure to go in there. And other than that, thank you all for joining us tonight. If we didn't answer your question, we have it cataloged. Like Brooks said, we will be putting together a one-pager for all of this to help you make sense of it, whether you are a sole proprietor, you employ 1099 workers, all of the different things that could apply to you as pros. We are working very hard to put together for you. Hopefully by tomorrow. Sorry, content team. So we will we will be sharing.
They love doing this work, right? It's a good cause. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. I mean, it's incredibly humbling to us how many people we're able to serve here, and it's just the whole mission of our business. So thank you all for attending, and thank you, Mel, Roland, and Alex. You've done a phenomenal job.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
See you tomorrow.